Hey, what's up, everyone? In this video, we're going to be walking through together one of the guides I published recently, which is dealing with how to evaluate plugins before adding them to your MyListing website or any website for that matter. So we're just going to work through this guide together. It's going to be mostly me speaking, but there's going to be a couple of things I'm going to show you. Okay, so a lot of narration here, so I apologize. You can tune me out until I tell you that we're going to click on something if you want, but a lot of narration on this one. I see many people making the mistake of adding plugins to their websites without giving much thought to the security, performance, the overall health of their website, and the long-term sustainability of their business. They install anything and everything as long as it gets the job done. Some might argue that this is not necessarily their fault because, in quotes, you don't know what you don't know. But when I first started building websites, I wanted to know as much as possible before blindly adding stuff. That means even when I was brand new to building websites, I just was so curious about how everything was done, why it was done that way, just really being cognizant of the choices that I was making for my website. I wanted to know. Whereas I see some people out there, they just don't seem to care. They don't think about the long-term ramifications. They just, I need this plugin. I need this to do this. So I'm just going to install this because WordPress says it's been installed on 2 million websites and that must mean it's the best and that sort of thing. But that's not the case all the time. I mean, sometimes it's the case, but it's not always the case. I would even venture to say that oftentimes it's not the case. So do what you want with that. Did I make mistakes? I sure did. But it wasn't for a lack of really trying my best to make the best informed decisions that I could. In this guide, I'll share my methodology for evaluating plugins for myself and my clients' websites to hopefully inspire people to put more thought into the solutions that touch their websites. So I do website care for a lot of people, and I tell them as part of that service, don't hesitate to come to me to ask what is your recommendation for doing image optimization, for doing this, doing that. Do I even need this plugin because we're on Keensta and because we're using Cloudflare and we're using Perf Matters? And do I really need these other plugins to go in there? And then once we decide, yeah, we probably need that, or if it's something that I haven't dealt with before. So there's a lot of things out there. I don't know everything there is to know. So if someone comes to me and says, I need a solution for, let's say, a forum, okay, then I'm going to go and use this exact guide that we're going through right now to evaluate what is the best forum plugin that meets the needs of my client. That's going to, looking at security, performance, functionality, all those things we're going to look at in this guide, not just going out and doing a Google search for the top forum WordPress plugins and installing the one that's ranked number one. That's not how I go about it. Okay. Step one, functionality. Does the plugin solve everything I need it? That should actually be in quotes, solve everything, because very rarely do plugins or any solution for that matter solve everything. Okay. So does the plugin solve everything I need it to solve? So I guess so that works. So rather than saying it solves everything, does it solve everything I personally need it to solve? Okay. If so, it makes the list of potential candidates that I might go with. Does the plugin solve the most critical things I need it to solve now, with a roadmap, if there is one, indicating that other nice to have features are planned? If so, it makes the list of potential candidates. This is step number one, because if the functionality isn't there or won't be there in the future, as indicated maybe in the roadmap, nothing else matters. Functionality has to be there, or what are we doing here, right? Okay, moving on down. Step two, support. The plugin has all the functionality you need, but there will likely come a time when you need the vendor's assistance for one thing or another. It's important, especially for more complex plugins, to feel like the vendor will respond and be willing to help you as issues arise. Looking specifically at premium solutions now, for the solutions that are premium only, i.e. paid, how do they provide support? Can you eventually get a human if you really need to, or get to a human if you really need to, or do they make you jump through many hoops via an automated chatbot? Do they provide phone support, or at least have support a support contact form. So I've had solutions before. The functionality was there, it was awesome. But when it came time to looking about, for the support options, I would test out, what do they have? Do they have a contact form? Okay, that's good. Is there a chat bot? And then kind of test the chat bot. So you're like, hi, da 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 da. And it's just like this endless loop of go to this doc, go to this doc, go to this doc, and none of it answers your question. And then there's no ability to ask for a support agent to speak with someone directly. So you just got to make sure that when you're looking at these premium solutions, like, are they providing the type of support that you feel like you need? Okay. Especially if you are paying for a solution, you need to be able to reach a human at some point, in my opinion, whether it's through chat, a contact form, or some other way. Freemium solutions. For the solutions that are a mix of free and premium, i.e., paid, how do they provide support? Let's focus on the free portion of the freemium model for this. So, the freemium model, if you're not familiar with that, is they'll often have a free tier and it's very limited in features and support and whatnot. And then they want you to upgrade to the paid plans that they have. So, that's the freemium model. Is the solution listed in the WordPress plugin repository? So, let me go ahead and let's open this. So, this is the WordPress plugin repository. There are lots of, well, I shouldn't say lots. There's a number of rules and conditions for plugins to be listed in here. It's very valuable to have your plugin listed in here. You have to provide free support. It has to have a good amount of free features and that sort of stuff to be listed in here. So again, is the solution listed in the WordPress plugin repository? If so, open up the plugins repository page and take a peek at the support form. All right, so let's just pick one. Let's do this. Let's do contact form 7. I hate this plugin, so let's go ahead and do that one. Let's open this up. Okay, where are we at? Open up the support page. We did that. Is the vendor actively replying, or are they taking weeks to get back to people? What is their attitude when they do respond to inquiries? All right, so let's just see. Let's go to the support. So you scroll down over here. There's this little support area. So we're just going to click on that. View support forum. Okay, so we've got a couple that have no replies, but based on this, they are mostly replying pretty quickly. Okay, so let's look at some next and let's look at some of the replies that we're getting. So this person had a question, they just linked to the FAQ. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's why, people write FAQs. People should refer to those. So that's fine. Here's another question. It's intentional. So they're a little short there. Okay, so they don't seem super interested. But again, it could be valid. Okay, here's another one. So they're referring you to something else on their website, most likely that they've already written about, which is fine. They did ask a follow-up questions. They did ask a tip. So this is good. So overall, without going through all of these, I think, okay, that's pretty cool. All right. So where are we at here? If the vendor is actively providing support for the free plugin, great. So they are. So we'll move on. This is a typical indicator that the vendor's business is healthy and sustainable, as supported by their premium pricing. Now, with contact form 7, let's just continue looking at that. So how are they making their money here? Making a donation. Contact form 7 needs your support. So it's a free plugin. They're asking for donations. Recommended plugins. It could be, I thought I saw this guy's name here in the support form. What was it? Takayuki Miyoshi? I thought I saw that person's name here. So let's go back. Yeah, so here we go. So they are actually the author of Flamingo as well and BOGO. Okay, so Flamingo doesn't look like it has a paid anything as well. BOGO. I'd have to dive into this, but I'm not sure how this person is surviving unless they're they have other stuff. I'm not seeing premium tiers here to get paid for anything they're doing. Maybe they just rely on donations. Huh, interesting. Okay. So maybe in some cases, these guys they just love to give back to WordPress, and whether it's free, it's just free. So, kudos to this person if that's what they're doing. So it looks like they're relying on donations. Or maybe something else intertwined in here. But anyway, let's move on. This is a sign for whatever reason okay, so let's go back here. This is a typical indicator that the vendor's business is healthy and sustainable as supported by their premium pricing. So it looks like their business is healthy and sustainable, even though they don't even have premium pricing. Unless, like I said, unless this person is doing something else to monetize that I'm not seeing. If the vendor is not actively providing support for their free plugin, that's a red flag. That's not the case here for Contact Form 7, but this would be a sign that for whatever reason or reasons, the free version of their plugin is not their focus. The saying, you get what you pay for, exists for a reason. Okay, so to wrap this up, you just want to see if they're offering a free version of their plugin. How is the support? How is the support responses? Does it seem like they care? Are they getting back to you in a relatively reasonable amount of time? And that sort of thing. Does it seem like the business is sustainable? Okay. Next up is, so we've got the functionality. We like everything so far under the support options. And now, like, how much do we trust these people? Okay. If you've gotten this far, you've started getting an overall vibe about the plugin and the vendor. Let's go a bit deeper by reviewing the key pages of the vendor's website. So the team, I often hear and believe that people buy from people, whether it be by social media, a website, email, a phone call, or in person. People buy from people. So it's important to maintain the human touch. If this is important to you, one thing you could do is see if the vendor has an about page. So I link to my about page in here. I've got this on my websites, just a photo, my experience, kind of what my routine is. I deal with I'm a dog dad to multiple dogs, just kind of how that looks. Just adding that a little bit of to show people I'm just a regular person. Trying to humanize myself and just be a person, right? So that's one thing that you can look for. Sometimes it's easier to trust when you can put a face or faces with a solution, which is what I try to do. Do they seem personable and approachable, or do they come across as being cold and unapproachable? So just check that out. If you go to an about page for somebody, I'm trying to think. Let's just pull up a random thing. I was just looking at this site today, Newsletter Glue, because they came out with a new podcast. So let's go there. We have a photo of Leslie. Newsletter Glue is actually a partner of the club. So they have a newsletter plugin. So you can check that out. But here we go. Company about. So Leslie's got a photo on here, co-founder, a funny photo of a cat. So they're being personable here and approachable. There's a note from the founder. So it just seems very trustworthy to do business with this company. Okay. Website, let's go ahead and let me open that again. Review the vendor's website to see how invested they are in their business, how much they pay attention to detail, etc. Does it have a sloppy design? Is it slow to load? Do they seem desperate by advertising sales all over the place? Are they asking for donations for their business? Some businesses throw up a website that is terrible across the board because they are not confident in the product or services they offer. So this is legit. It loads fast. The design is good. It's got all the components there to build trust, lightning fast. So really good stuff. I've seen websites from WordPress professionals in the industry that they have an idea for a business and they'll just throw up a really quick and dirty website. And I mean, it's dirty, like stuff is terribly designed. There was this one person that was trying to build this accessibility type of business, and their website wasn't even accessible. It was just horrible. So it's just an indication that they're just throwing crap at the wall and seeing if it sticks. They're not really invested in the business yet. So in my opinion, like, you got to put your best foot forward from the very beginning, even if it's not a fully proven concept or whatever, because if you ruin that trust right from the very beginning, then you may never gain that back. That's why I always preach against, oh, I'm going to sign up for cheap hosting now, because I'm not making any money, and then when I make some money, I'm going to get better hosting, and I would just want all the free plugins that are out there, and I'll pay for premium plugins. No. That's the complete wrong way to go about it. You don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but invest in things like good hosting, good plugins, right from the very beginning, that are going to make a difference in your business. Because if you establish that trust from the very first minute, it could be a real game changer. If people come to your website and it just sucks, then why would I ever come back to that? You know what I mean? Okay. So step 4. We like the functionality, we like the support, we've got a pretty good amount of trust going. We've got a good vibe going here. We like what we're seeing. Step 4 is security. While you might not be a developer and able to validate the secure nature of a vendor's plugin, you can check the plugin's history of discovered vulnerabilities. So what I'm saying here is, I couldn't even do this myself. I don't know. I know security practices and all that, but not at a coding level. Like, I couldn't look at code and tell you if the code was secure. I wish I could, but I just can't. This is not my skill set, right? So what you can do to help with this is go to PatchStack. Has a vulnerability database that they maintain. These are kind of one of the main authorities, if not the main authority, for this type of thing, for vulnerabilities. So you can go here, let's say contact form 7, we want to search for again. So you can see all of the vulnerabilities listed here. You can see what the vendor, what their response is, what the current status of this, how things have progressed as far as fixing vulnerabilities. Now, vulnerabilities are going to happen. It's part of software. It doesn't necessarily mean that anything bad isn't supposed to shed like 100%. Mean that I'm having trouble with my words here, but just because there's a vulnerability in a solution doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because they happen all the time, and it depends on the response from the vendor when they know that a vulnerability has been found or they find one. That's what I'm trying to say there. Okay. I think I write about that here. Vulnerabilities on their own, yes, are not a reason not to trust a plugin. What's important is the vendor's response to the vulnerabilities, especially if they were responsibly disclosed. So if you don't know what responsibly disclosed means, this is a standard practice to responsibly and privately disclose the vendor a security problem before publicizing it. So it can be prepared. So a fix can be prepared and damage from the vulnerability minimized. So if you are a company out there that your job is to find vulnerabilities, or you just enjoy doing that as a hobby, your responsible disclosure is not just saying, hey, I found this vulnerability, and you jump in social media and you just blast the company saying, I found this, It's just not the right way to go about it. So responsibly disclosing a vulnerability is going to the vendor, telling them about it behind the scenes, and giving them a chance to fix it before publicizing it. At the time of this writing, it was all over the news about how the company behind one of the most popular security plugins chose to ignore a responsibly disclosed vulnerability. You read that right. A security plugin that doesn't take security seriously. I'm not going to mention the names here. You can Google it. It's all over the WordPress industry. How about this particular security plugin? It was responsibly disclosed that there was a vulnerability in their plugin, and they didn't handle it. From what I've read, I can't say that it's definitive. From everything I've read and then I've heard and following all the threads, they did not handle it the right way. Okay. So do your own research and read about it. It's kind of interesting. But their customers ended up leaving them in droves. And it was mainly because of how they responded rather than the vulnerability itself. Although being a security plugin with a vulnerability as big as it was didn't do them any favors. So a lot of people said, hey, you have a vulnerability in a security plugin. That's a problem. Now, that alone might be reason enough to drop you. Now, add to the fact that you poorly responded to the vulnerability that was discovered, like I'm out. That was the mentality of a lot of people, and I honestly don't blame them. So, in short, do your due diligence to see if the history of vulnerabilities for a particular plugin, to see the history of the vulnerabilities for a particular plugin and learn how the vendor responded. Check out the response. Next up is cost. Are you surprised to see that this was the last step that I take? Sure, I might take a quick peek at the pricing towards the beginning of the evaluation process. It's human nature to do so. But that's more to see if the cost is so outlandish that it doesn't make sense rather than spending the time to weigh the overall pricing pros and cons. So let's go here, pull this up. Let's go to, I'm trying to think of something. Let's say WP All Import. We all know in the MyListing world what that is. Let's say I come here and I'm like, just at first glance, support seems to be there real quickly without diving deep. The trust is there pretty much, all of those things. And I just I want to take I'm human nature. I want to take a really quick glance at the pricing, not because it's going to be a make it or break it necessarily, but I want to see if the price is so crazy outlandish that it doesn't make sense for me and my business, or if the pricing is tailored towards a different audience, like an agency, where if you buy in bulk, it makes sense. But if you're buying one-off licensing, it's just the cost is so, I got a better example. Let's look at Ahrefs. So I've been doing SEO for a long time. I've never bought the really expensive tools. I just found a way to do it without them. Here's a great example. So yeah, these guys have an amazing reputation. Their website's awesome. You can trust them, so on and so forth. But I go here and I go to pricing. Hopefully it hasn't changed because it'll prove me wrong. But I go here and look at the light plan. The light plan is $99 a month. Now, that's pretty pricey. Now, does that make sense for your business? Does it give you the things that you need, like just taking a quick glance? But is it so outlandish that it doesn't make sense? Okay, if I pay annually, I'm going to get 2 months free. So $83 a month. So it's not crazy expensive. So I wish I could think of another one we could look at. But I think you get my point. If you come over here and you're just like, whoa, like one website, $300 a month, like I just can't even afford that right now, as much as I want to put my best foot forward and get the best tools, get that trust established and stuff like that. SEO tools is a different beast, because this is more of, running your business to generate income. So you're providing SEO services. So you have a return on investment there. So, but you get my point. You just come to the pricing page and you're like, whoa, this thing's like, there's just no way this makes sense. Like I can't even proceed right now. So, okay. Hope that makes sense. At this point in the evaluation process, I've determined the plugin meets my requirements. The vendor has checked all or most of the boxes regarding support, trust, security, and the overall vibe they give off. So to me, the cost is what it is, assuming there is a cost, and I'll pull the trigger on a purchase. Obviously, if the plugin comes with a free trial or a solid refund policy, it becomes even more of a no-brainer. So it's just to say, if they've gone through all the steps, they check all the boxes, and we're down to cost, and I am very likely just to purchase, especially if there's a trial period, especially if there's a solid refund policy and that sort of thing. And then I don't really look at cost unless it's that outlandish cost that it's just like, no way in the world does this make sense for me. Okay. You get what you pay for. I'm a firm believer in this saying. Unfortunately, WordPress has, for the longest time, brought with it a free this and free that message, leading many people to take on the same mindset. For the longest time since I first got into WordPress, it was just everybody wanted everything for free because WordPress is open source and it's free. So they think that all the plugins should be free, all services, all the solutions should be free, and they just kept wanting free, 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 and it's just been so hard to get away from that mindset in WordPress. But we really, really need to get away from that mindset. It drove me crazy being in social media groups, and you'd say, I'm looking for a free plugin that does this. I'm like, it's just the wrong approach. Like, in my opinion, it should be worded as, I'm looking for a solution that does X, Y, Z. That's it. I don't care if it's free or paid. Just give me the recommended resources and I will take it from there. But when you lead off with, I'm looking for a free solution that does this, okay, it's just drives me absolutely crazy. And the reason it is like I say right here, how motivated would you be to work super hard on running a business while providing your products and services for free? And I'm winky face. That's what I thought. I see this all the time. Like, Ryan, I don't want to pay $5 a month for deals and discounts and access to the guides and all this stuff. But you go to these same people's websites and nothing is free. They're charging $50 a month for their cheapest listing plan for one listing. And it just doesn't make, it's hypocritical, I guess is the word I'm thinking of, is people want stuff for free all the time, but they're not giving away stuff for free, if that makes sense. All right, final step here, and we'll get out of here. Testing. The best practice is not to use your production website as a testing ground, and instead test plugins in a staging or local dev environment. Only if you determine a plugin passes your test should it reach your production website. For those hosting their website on Kinsta, as I do, they provide really nice staging environments that are super simple to use. Another option, albeit a temporary one in my opinion, is to use the guide I linked to, which is to do local WP and host it on your local workstation, where you can test these plugins before putting them onto your live production website. Okay. I'll just wrap up by saying with the testing, it kind of goes along with what I said at the very beginning. People just don't think thoroughly about the long-term ramifications of just selecting a random plugin without giving it much thought, throwing it on your production website, and then you realize later, like, oh, this wasn't the right one. This screwed some stuff up. I should have tested it in a non-production environment. And then by the time they realize that, it's too late. You remove the plugin, or at least you think you do, but it's leaving stuff behind in your database that is loading on every page sometimes. And it's just creating problems that you could have easily avoided by testing this in an actual testing environment. That's why those testing and staging environments exist. All right. Hope you found this video useful, and I will catch you all on the next one. See you later.